Thanks for tuning in to the Palm Beach Podcast, a weekly show highlighting people making a positive impact in our community. With your hosts, sports chiropractor and athletic trainer, Dr. James Spencer, photographer and art director, Mike Jones. Our show is brought to you by Pump House Coffee Roasters, Hopportunities in Delray Beach, and the Lotus Travel Company for retreats and tours in Palm Beach County. Hello and welcome to the Palm Beach Podcast. My name is Mike Jones. I'm hanging out at Media Zone on Singer Island with a couple cool dudes. Dr. James Spencer, how you doing today?
Always a pleasure to see you, you know that.
And there's some blue sunny skies out there today, aren't there?
Fortunately, here in South Florida, most skies are sunny here.
And I think we got a special guest in the studio today, don't we?
Farmer Jay, welcome to the show, man.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys. It's really a pleasure to be here, and you guys get me down by the beach, which is nice to get out of the dirt for a little bit. So thank you.
Yeah, I think we're very fortunate to have you in. We had a great conversation before we had you on air, and it's inspiring just to like sit and hang out and listen to you like talk, because I feel like there's just knowledge bombs dropped left and right. It's really, really cool, man.
Well, and I think a lot of our listeners will appreciate your content and a little bit of your knowledge too moving forward. Like I know for me, with everything that went on, there's kind of the past 6-8 months, growing my own fruits and veggies has been really inspiring and fulfilling just to do that. So
yeah, it's something we've been disconnected from, and it's something that we all need to get back to. Everybody's all about, know where your food comes from and all about, cooking and inspiring new dishes and things like that. But let's get to the growing of it and getting to that. And that's where, I've been, so blessed to have this business to where I'm building gardens. And I tell people now, more so than being a farmer, I'm more of a carpenter these days, because I build these gardens for people in their backyard. So I'm building raised beds. And the ultimate goal is to make something beautiful, something so that when they look out, they can be proud of it. But then it's also going to be purposeful to where it's going to grow them some food and support their, their nutrition. Another part of my business and what I do is helping educate. I have a whole kids program, Farmer Jay's Junior Sprouts, and then I have an old adult education program. It doesn't sound too good, but it's more geared towards teaching adults to grow food. So it's, it's not, so much for little kids, but it's something that, we can articulate together as adults.
And what is the Junior Sprouts program really? What does that entail?
So the Junior Sprouts program, I designed it to kind of go cyclical with the schools, so an 8-week program. So I have 8 classes, and I have 2 of those, 8 weeks, Farmer Jay's Junior Sprouts 1 and 2. And once you get through 1, it's real fun because, it's designed predominantly for elementary school kids. And once the kids get through those 8 classes, they're certified junior farmers, and I give them a certificate and everything. I joke with them. I say, you hang this over your bed, and then when it comes time to go to, apply for colleges, just show them this, and
they'll appreciate it. I love it.
Harvard, Yale. Oh yeah.
You're in. So anyways, they get the certificate. They're all jazzed up because now they got a special job. I'm a certified junior farmer, and I got a funny story. Every time at the end of my the last class, I always tell the kids, all right, now it's your job to go inspire other people. You need to tell other people to grow something because this is what we do. And I had we had a graduation on a Friday at one school in Boca. And the mom, I knew her, and she'd called me on that Monday, and she said, "You're not going to believe what my daughter did." After she graduated, I told her she had to go do something. She woke up on Sunday morning, filled her wagon with basil plants, and went knocking door to door to hand them to people to tell them to grow something. And at that point, my career should have been over because I could just drop my mic and say, "That's it, I'm done." But anyways,
you should be proud, man. That's really cool.
It was such a cool thing, and to have a kid actually grasp something, a lesson, and carried on. And you as a father, that too. It's like you try and tell kids something all day and they don't always take it. And you wonder, hey, did they actually get anything out of that? But then to hear that and to see that they did actually put to meaning and put to, work what you told them, that's it. That's the name of the game.
And actions speak louder than words, right?
It's true. It's true. And I guarantee the people that this little kid handed them and said, "Hey, you got to grow something." I guarantee you they did.
Oh, yeah.
So
Can't let the kid down.
yeah.
And just, I'm the artsy fartsy guy at the table here, but like I love the patterns. Like I think I saw one of your posts saying like how you want to like make a space beautiful as well with the different shaped boxes and creating walkways. And it's beautiful as well as like obviously super functional.
Yeah, thank you for saying so. And that's what I really strive for. I tell, when we're trying to design a garden, because vegetables aren't always lush and, beautiful. It's like you always have that one moment you can take a beautiful picture when it's grown, but then you harvest it and it's, so your garden is always work in progress. So what I strive for and say and tell the client is we want this garden to be beautiful when it's empty. Just as beautiful as when it's full, so you have to have that sense of pride when you look at it. You can't look at your garden and say, oh, geez, and have that feeling that, I can't wait till that grows in, sort of thing. You need to be like, yes, and be proud of it, even when it's empty. So it's just a pleasure to be out there. It's a pleasure to look at, and that's what I strive for.
Well, and I know to like nourish things and actually take pride and be present with a lot of that. You're taking care of almost a kid when you're raising a lot of your fruits and veggies. I mean, that's what I do. Mm-hmm. I mean, I take pride in seeing things start to grow and prosper, and you're like, all right, heck yeah.
Well, and every time I go to his house, like I don't leave, he won't let me leave without like, here's some rosemary, here's some basil,
nice.
Here's a pineapple.
Nice.
Like it's usually herbs, but it's like, it's awesome, man. Because then it's like very obvious that you're proud of your garden and Correct. You're super, super into it.
Correct.
Well, you got a little bit of Farmer J in you because that's what I think it's that sense of pride that set me off. It's that I take a seed and I tell the kids, hey, this is, a seed is, it's like a rock. It's like, it doesn't seem like it has any life, but you put it in the ground or in the soil and the warmth of the earth, nurtures that seed and then the water and then magic. It is truly magic. This thing comes to life. From something, and it might not, it won't live if you just leave it on the table.
Correct.
It's never gonna, but if you do nourish it, and to your point, it's a living thing. And I think we take that for granted. I know the kids do, but now they start to, realize that, hey, this is a living thing. And then it's that sense of pride that you take this, broccoli seed and it's nothing. And then, a month and a half later, you bring in a broccoli. Or 2 months later, you bring in a broccoli and it's like, wow, I just did this. I just fed you from something, a little pebble I put in the ground.
And I know for me, it started in college. My roommate, he was growing his own chives and we walked out there and he chopped a few up and I'm like, oh, that's really cool.
Just good on that bagel with cream cheese.
You know it. Yeah. And that's what was inspiring for me, and knowing that it was like, oh, I can do that. And so then when I was in chiropractic school, I started my own pineapples. And here we are. I got 8 offspring later, still
Nice.
growing in the ground, and it's fulfilling to see them grow and to share that with friends and family.
Yeah, no, totally agree.
And one thing that I'll remember from my parents' garden as a kid, we had a outdoor cat, and they used to plant catnip, and it was hilarious to watch. Like the cat would just go and
get
roll.
like loaded on it.
Oh my gosh, yeah, and it's just like a funny, fond memory. Of growing up with gardens in the backyard.
Yeah.
So Jay, tell the listeners a little bit about the raised beds and really kind of how you try and mainstream that with the busy life and kids and everything else.
It's tough, and I'm still trying to figure it out. This is actually next month is my 10th anniversary. It'll be 10 years of officially being Farmer J.
Congratulations!
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it, and I'm real proud of the journey. And I can't say that I'm exactly where I signed on to be when I first started, because I signed on to be a farmer. And like I said, I'm more of a carpenter these days, but still the purpose is the same and the mission's the same. And that's to get people to, change their relationship with food, start growing food and know where their food comes from, and try and localize it. I think that's one of the most important things. I do have a lot of fun with the gardens and building them. I use all cedar with all my beds that I make. And you out there listening, I recommend definitely, if you're going to build a raised bed, use cedar. It's a, naturally rot resistant wood. So the organics are there. And I've had a lot of fun with like the different finishes that I do. And I do a finish from, that originated in Japan about 400 years ago called shasugiban, where I burn the wood. So I like using, and I'm all about a story too, with everything that I do, with what I'm growing. Even when I grow for different chefs, when I was with the Breakers or, growing for the chefs at Farmer's Table, we're growing something, in our yard or in our restaurant garden or whatever it is. And, we might not be able to sustain ourselves with the amount of space we have, but we can grow something special. So look, to your history, your ethnicity, and, is there something with a story? I want to grow a lettuce that the Queen of England in the 1800s grew, and I want to tell that story. And while we're eating, I want to talk about that and do that. I think that's fun stuff. Growing a special herb, and, and as a gardener, I'm sure you could relate. That's what it's all about. It's like, oh, I have this and you have that, and oh, let's share that, and I'll give you some of this. And, it's fun. It's fun stuff, but it's also purposeful because, it's all something. It's, it has an intellectual, we could talk about it, but it's also something that brings new flavors and new nutrition to us. And, it can sustain somebody.
And I think too, like for me, probably 2 years ago, I was talking to this chiropractic class, and they said, what's one thing that you could predict if you could? And I said, you're not going to eat your food unless you grew it yourself or you knew where it came from. And, with so many autoimmune conditions and everything going on with the world, I still hold true to that today. And it's really cool to hear somebody as passionate as yourself kind of sharing that message.
Yeah, it's true. And if you look in our history, 300 years ago, 90% of us were farmers. And, 80 years ago, 70% were farmers. Now it's 1%. We're disconnected from it. And then also looking at that, I think it was Cornell University put out a study back in the 40s or 50s, and they were comparing, like a simple salad, all the components of a salad: lettuce, tomato, cucumber, and then all the nutritional density back then versus today. And it's not there.
Not the same, yeah.
It's not the same, So the farmer doesn't care about you. They're just growing it because it's their, bottom line. In fact, they'd be just as happy as if it rotted on the shelf. They don't care if it is good nutrition for you. They don't care about any of that stuff. And that's why I think connecting and growing your own, at least if it's something, whether it's herbs or, hey, I can grow some tomatoes. And that's what I tell people. Whether it's an herb box, a fruit tree, or an elaborate kitchen garden, everybody needs to grow something. You have to. And moving forward, this is what we have to do. Part of your house, it shouldn't be a question of, do you have a vegetable garden? It's what do you have growing in your vegetable garden? And we need to know those things. And that's what needs to happen moving forward.
I think that's really cool. And a piece of advice that one of my patients asked, I said, hey, well, where would you get started? Because I talk a lot about nutrition. I said, well, what do you enjoy eating?
Great question.
Because if you're going to eat a lot of bell peppers, then that's what you grow.
Right. Yeah.
Right? And I think that's something as far as a point of reference for people. It's like, what do you find yourself eating more frequently? What grows well in your area? What's seasonal? What's year round? Start there.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And I get most people, they come to me and they're like, Jay, I want to grow tomatoes or I want to grow cucumbers. And I'm like, well, you picked, one of the more harder things to grow.
Really hard.
Let's start with lettuce and herbs, let's get you going with some things. And that's with kids, always with the kids, lettuce, because it's easy, it's fast, it's instant,
It's weird. I suck at lettuce.
Really? No, lettuce is it's an easy starter plant. It's very fast, and everyone always asks, oh, well, how much can I get out of my garden? And I said, well, it depends on the plant. It depends on the time of season, because like a tomato plant, you could have that for 4 months or more. And a lettuce plant's about a 45-day plant, so you're going to grow a lot more lettuce in a space versus the tomatoes,
Sure.
because it's going to take a lot longer. So, and it also depends on how hard you want to work too, so you have to have your successive crops planned out, so like your broccoli's just starting to crown and you're about 3-4 weeks away from harvest. You got to have your successive crop ready to grow. So you plant it in, in your tray in the background. So that way, when you harvest that broccoli, you got a month-old plant going in its spot. And we were able to fast forward our time, as opposed to just dropping a seed in and, waiting another month for that.
And I can say, and this is something I've messed up, is growing the plants too close together and impeding each other.
Yeah, that's another thing too. You always, when you're planting, you always have to consider the size at harvest, not, this baby plant you're putting in. You have to consider, okay. And sometimes, and I always tell my clients, new gardeners, Google it. You go look at what this plant looks like. If you don't know what it looks like, go look and see, and you can see, how big it is. And that way you kind of know. And then also knowing the sun, and it sounds crazy. My criteria when I'm going to do a consultation at a new garden, new house, or whatever, I have 3 kind of criteria that I look for. First thing is look for the sun. And as crazy as that sounds in Florida, the Sunshine State, you got to look for the sun, because we have 2 growing seasons. I kind of categorize it in. We have our main season, which goes from September to May. And then we have summer, which is, the other part of the year.
I say hot and hotter.
Hot and hotter. Yeah, that's it. So main season, you can pretty much grow anything in the grocery store. There's a few exceptions of things we can't grow here, like Brussels sprouts, and we struggle with spinach and, whatever, a few things. But for the most part, you can grow pretty much anything over there. Summertime, things change a little bit. So you have to, know exactly what plants are, for that time of year. But once you get that stuff down, you know exactly what to plant, what's going in, you got the right plant for the right spot, and, you can go.
See it prosper.
You see it prosper. Exactly.
So you got to share like a crazy, a funny, a wild story. We've all seen on the news, like the pumpkin that's the size of like a tire or like whatever. What's something that you've seen in the past like decade? Something that just stands out as wild, cool, funny, interesting, anything.
That's a good question.
Sorry to put you on the spot, but
I always see things, and I think that probably the things that catch me the most are the things that kids say.
Yes.
Because I work a lot with kids, and, I love seeing special things, and I always talk about, the growing out of season, and I love hearing those stories that, hey man, I grew a tomato and it was summertime. So I love hearing those kind of things, but the kids always hit me with funny things and what they say and how they catch me off guard. And I just taught a class the other day, and I was talking about the seasons. And, the season and how the earth rotates and how, it orbits at the same time and all these things. And then when they come up there, and I try and tell them to repeat it. And I actually got it, and it's on my Instagram, of this little 4-year-old talking about it. And I'm trying to coach him along to say orbiting around the sun. And I'm like, what is it? And he's like, it's going in a circle. And then one little girl hollers out in the background, it's an oval. And I'm trying to keep a straight face as I'm doing it. And I'm trying to, okay, and what's the next thing? And he goes, and that's our seasons. And it's just, they're the best. And it's the best content, honestly, is these little kids and the things they say. I had one kid call me out because, at this particular school, it's, I've seen some of these kids, I've been teaching there for 4 years. So I've seen some of these kids since they had diapers on. And this one kid, he's getting ready. He's in his last year at this school, and I'm sitting there doing this class, and I see him like looking at the book and looking at me, and I'm like, and I stopped the class. Are you okay? And he's like, are we going to do this one again? And I was like, some of your friends haven't seen this class. We have some new kids, which and so he called me out right there on the spot.
Dang.
He's like,
you got to appreciate that though, because he's obviously well aware of your content.
Exactly.
And the message stuck, so I like that.
It did.
That's cool.
He's like, are we going to do this one again?
You need to give him some honorary overalls.
I do. He needs it. He needs it.
Or come help me teach.
Sure.
Yeah,
and maybe he will be the next Farmer Jay, Like, I think that's something that we identified just in chatting with you for 20 minutes, that like, you really do want to share the knowledge, pass it on, watch the next person have that to pass it on to the next person.
That's true.
It's really, really cool.
That's what we do. I think that's our human culture, and what we should be doing is passing on the good and helping each other, lifting each other up.
I like that, and obviously your passion's very palpable, and your excitement, and your energy. I think that's the youth of today is lucky to have you teach into a lot of them.
Oh, thanks, guys.
Yeah.
You know, to make a guy feel good.
Yeah.
Well, so let's dig into some more vegetable stuff here.
Right on.
What's like your favorite vegetable to eat, man? Like what do you can't wait to throw into the stir fry or into the whatever?
You know what I really love? I love greens.
Yep.
Lettuces are great too, but I've really got, of course, kales. Those are all fun. But I love the varieties. My biggest is like the Asian greens, because they've hybridized and they've, mixed and done all these different things with the greens. There's a seed company, I'll plug them. It's called Kitazawa Seeds, and they specialize in all Asian varieties. And I love growing these greens because, greens, you can eat them raw, You can cook them. I love throwing them in stews. I love bitter greens, like your endives and escarole and things like that. I mean, they're versatile. There's so many different flavors in greens. So
Bok choy?
Bok choy. I love bok choy, tat soy.
Right?
Yeah. There's a bunch. In fact, I can't even pronounce half the names of all these greens that I do. And there's one that I grew. And I like getting seeds from different, I like Kitazawa, but I'll go to like an Asian grocery store and I'll grab some. Sometimes I always see the fun stuff they have. You can't even read what the hell it says. You look at the picture and you're like, okay, I
want some of that.
I want some of that. Well, anyways, I got this one and they called it a rape. And so I was trying to Google and I put Chinese rape, and it was a big mistake putting that in there. But anyways,
don't click on the videos.
Yeah, don't click on the videos when you Google Chinese rape. But anyways, it's a rape is a type of green, and it's a wild type of green, and they're tasty, they're good. But I wish they had another name for it.
Yeah,
translation didn't really cross over.
Something didn't work out there when they listed the name of that one.
What about fruit? What about fruits? What do you enjoy?
Fruits, I love a tomato. Of course, there's so many different kinds. I said there's a little yellow tomato that I love. I grow it every year. It's called Sun Gold. It's actually a hybrid, but it is like candy. It is so good. I love that tomato. I don't know. I mean, I love squash too. Yep. Squash, zucchinis. I love that. There's an 8-ball squash that I love. It's a round one. Instead of cucumbers, I like gherkins. I grow this one. It's called an Indian burr gherkin. It looks like something out of like the medieval times that you'd see on the end of a chain that someone's swinging around. It's like egg shaped and it's spiky, but it's not sharp like you'd get stuck in you. But
like a dragon fruit almost, right?
Yeah, kind of like that. But when you cut it open, it's cucumber like seeds, and you see it just the same, and it's a little lemony tasting, real refreshing, nice, and it grows like a weed. It's crazy.
How's the aroma?
Cucumbery. Yeah. It's right in the same family, and it can work interchangeably, just like you would. You just kind of peel those spikes off and
that's
pop it in there.
That's something I've learned too with a lot of my chiropractic nutrition education is, getting your hands dirty, earthing and grounding. Like there's a lot of healing properties to that. It also creates a ton of satiety in the brain of having these different colors and aromas and textures. And I think that's really cool, just kind of piggybacking off of what you do for a living. More people should be doing it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's one of the first things I teach the kids too, is you got to incorporate all your senses. And I think that's important, when we start eating before we even take the first bite, when you see your food, it has to be, beautiful and look good and appealing. And so I tell the kids, when you're gardening, you can't just look at the plant's posture. I mean, of course, that's important, seeing the discoloration or the posture of the plant. That's going to tell you some things, but you're not going to know exactly. Characteristics of overwatered and underwater is the same. They're yellow or brown or falling over. So you have to, actually physically touch that soil, and then I tell the kids, once you touch it and you see, then smell it, and the smell of soil, it shouldn't be something that you want to eat, like, oh, yummy, but it should be something you're attracted to. You should have that attraction to the smell of the earth and the soil, and it should be something that's somewhat appealing to you. So if you smell it and it smells appealing, you're okay in that category. But if you have to back away from it, then something's wrong.
Well, and that's why I like juicing beets for me. It tastes like the soil of the earth, and I kind of embrace that.
I love it. I love beets too. Yeah. That's another one. If you're talking about root crops, that's probably my favorite. I love beets. They're just so good.
And they're not like visually, like satisfaction wise. You don't see the carrots or the sweet potatoes or the beets.
Right.
You just see whatever is
on top.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit of business.
Okay.
People in Palm Beach County, they want to have a garden. They want to learn how to garden. Talk about the different avenues of you building something for them or teaching them how to do something.
So what I do is, usually it all starts off with a consultation, because I want to see the space. I want to make sure the garden goes in right. I typically don't just, if someone says, hey, I want a 4x4 or whatever, I typically don't do that, because I want to make sure that the garden is going to a good home, so to speak, and they know what they're doing. I don't want to throw you to the wolves, so to speak. So, we start with a consultation, and the criteria is, look for the sun, make sure you got that, make sure we have a water source is another one of them. And then the last one is keeping it in close proximity to where you're already hanging out. Don't make it to where it's a hassle to go get basil and you'd rather just shake the flakes out of the cabinet. Let's make it to where we can get it easily. So those are some of the things that I look for when placing a garden. But so it starts with the consultation and the build. And then once every garden's built, the last appointment that I make is with the whole family so we can plant it together. And I include, the planting of the garden and this last consultation or lesson, whatever you want to call it, to where I'll give you, all the plants, pointers on what to look for, how to harvest it, maybe some recipe ideas, what we do with it. But the idea with that is, I do give them some sort of, I guess the opportunity to say what they want, but I want to give them stuff that they don't know about. I want to give them the stuff that, hey, I want to introduce you to something new and I want you to try it, and that's what I look forward to in those. So, I grow and I have, I guess I've kind of curbed down what I grow from the beginning because I used to grow a lot of crazy stuff because I used to sell to restaurants and stuff. So I would have all these, crazy varieties, but I found that, the average home gardener, they want less than tomatoes and, some cucumbers or something. So anyways, I've dialed down a little bit, but still I like to throw like those Asian varieties and stuff. And they say, yokata, what? I'm like, yokata, no, you're going to try this. I'm going to put it in your garden. You'll love it. And so we do it.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool. I like that.
So like if someone wants to buy a box garden for their backyard, they can totally hit you up and you're going to help them design it, optimize it, build it, install it, teach them about it, help them plant, teach them recipes. That's a really full service package you've got there.
It is. And I think it's just important because gardening, everyone's intimidated and the common, when somebody contacts me, the common thing they say is, oh, Farmer Jay, I've got a black thumb. I don't know how to grow anything and this and that. And I say, no, it's not true. You just haven't been set up properly. We got to set you up properly. And I can't tell you how many people, like I'll be doing a gardening lecture or something like that. And then they'll say, yeah, I got a black thumb. And I'll say, well, describe your garden. Where is it? And they'll describe a garden on the north side of their house. And I say, well, I'd have a black thumb if I had your garden. So we got to move your garden. You've put it in the wrong spot.
Yeah, you'd have 2 left feet if you wore 2 left pairs of shoes.
That's
right?
true. Yeah. So that's it. The key is location, making sure you got the right spot. Watering, don't miss out on that. A lot of people, I'll just hand water it. That's the wrong answer because you're going to go out of town. You're going to miss it, and especially like when you're growing lettuce. Lettuce needs water every day. It'll turn bitter if you don't give it water. You got to make sure that it has what it needs. So if you got to make sure those things are set up right. So I won't even build a garden if they say, I don't want irrigation. I say, you don't want me because I'm going to make sure your garden's right. I want to make sure it's good.
Good for you, man. That's cool.
Thank you, guys.
I like that you're not just a yes guy. Like it's actually like inspiring because in life, I think a lot of people, even if you're not into gardening or whatever, if you can take one piece of advice from this, I would take that.
Yep.
Like, hey, thanks. Whatever for my business, like, excuse my language, but don't whore yourself out. Like have some standards, set a system of this is how I operate. And these are my procedures and this is my protocol. And I mean, you set people up for success. It's so obvious to see just from one conversation with you,
Well, thanks. And it's important. And, I think that, the first 10 years has worked out okay. So I'm going to continue that same philosophy on.
Well, I think it's time for him to give some thanks.
Yeah, you got to.
Who helped you get to where you're at today?
Oh gosh, I have a lot of people to thank. The main person I have to thank is probably my wife. And I remember this day as I used to have a wholesale beverage business. In fact, I was one of the first people to launch Red Bull in this area. I was hired by Red Bull. But anyways, I was very stressed out with my work and everything. And she said, well, why don't you do what you love? You love plants. So that's what I did. And it was right around the time we had Gene and Francis, the 2 hurricanes. I don't know if you guys were there then. Yeah. And a buddy of mine had a landscape business and he needed some help. So I jumped on a Bobcat and did that. So thank you to my wife. And then, of course, the Peschels. And that's who I was telling you about, who helped me get my start, Beth and Craig Peschel, who gave me, opportunity on their farm and at the garden center in Boca. And I wouldn't be here today without any of those people that I just named. And an enormous amount of gratitude to them for setting me off.
Hey, it's magical, baby.
It is.
Well, I think we have to just say thank you so much for coming on the Palm Beach podcast, because I'm inspired, after this. It's you just have an energy about you, man, and it's like, I don't know if it's the sunlight and the fresh air or whatever it is.
maybe the
good
dirt
water.
under my nails.
Yeah. But dude, thank you so much for coming
Yes,
on.
thank you.
Hey, thank you. And the feeling's mutual, and I'd love to come back anytime you guys would have me.
Cheers.
Yeah, I know. We need to get a garden in here, boys. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Palm Beach Podcast. Our show is brought to you by Pump House Coffee Roasters, Hopportunities in Delray Beach, and the Lotus Travel Company for retreats and tours in Palm Beach County.